An eventful couple of weeks for NASCAR's Joey Logano. The three-time NASCAR Cup Series champion has been all over the place, traveling from Nashville to Michigan to a trip to Mexico City last weekend for the first Cup race outside the U.S. in 67 years.
Joey Logano has just delivered a performance that defies belief, and what's been revealed has left NASCAR observers across the country stunned. The three-time champion stands as one of the most polarizing figures in motorsport's history, making his recent savage response to critics particularly satisfying to witness. The revelation involves not only his catastrophic destruction of fan expectations, but also the complete exposure of NASCAR's hypocritical fan base, prompting the entire racing community to finally acknowledge this systematic double standard after witnessing one of the most brutal verbal takedowns in recent memory. The context begins at Pocono Raceway during the Sports on Prime broadcast, where Logano was expected to graciously accept fan criticism, but instead delivered earth-shattering evidence of crowd hypocrisy and his own unapologetic competitive philosophy. The veteran driver recently faced the reality of being met with resounding boos despite spending several minutes signing autographs, and announced his complete dismissal of fan inconsistency and false moral superiority. This inflammatory response escalated tensions, particularly when Logano responded with a sharp remark, "They weren't booing when I was signing their autographs a minute ago," after Carl Edwards commented that he's one of the most misunderstood drivers in NASCAR. The NASCAR world has been polarized by Logano's competitive approach for an extended period, recognizing what his Jekyll and Hyde personality represents for authentic competition versus manufactured fan expectations. Logano maintains that dual personality where out of the car, he might be the nicest guy you'll ever meet. But if you're in his rearview mirror or out front of his windshield, he's your worst nightmare, raising fundamental questions about competitive authenticity. Who exactly demands drivers be fierce competitors while simultaneously expecting them to be universally beloved? The organization wants to ensure fans understand that championship-level competition requires systematic ruthlessness through deliberate competitive separation and psychological compartmentalization. The fan hypocrisy situation provides crucial context because Logano's criticism cannot be viewed as simple defensive reaction or standard driver frustration with negative reception. Logano serves as a three-time champion who understands competitive dynamics, implementing authentic dual personality alongside systematic competitive excellence that creates cognitive dissonance among fans who want both fierce competition and universal likability. The champion designed his approach encompassing off-track accessibility, genuine fan interaction, and ruthless on-track competitiveness that reveals fundamental contradictions in fan expectations and moral positioning. Logano recently revealed his complete philosophy regarding competitive authenticity in a particularly explosive statement that exposed his systematic approach to championship mentality. "I feel like when you were racing, everyone looked at Carl as fake. He's not authentic. He's not real, right? You went through the same thing because you were really nice off the racetrack and then you were a pretty fierce competitor. You didn't want to see Carl in your mirror. You're like, oh, here we go. It makes sense to be that way. It's just hard for people to understand that." This comprehensive competitive philosophy exposes Logano's systematic understanding. Acknowledge competitive necessity immediately, embrace psychological compartmentalization completely, and reject fan demands for impossible personality integration to justify championship-level performance, ultimately demonstrating that authentic competition requires mental separation that casual observers cannot comprehend or appreciate. The Carl Edwards comparison reveals how Logano systematically identifies with previous drivers who faced similar criticism for authentic competitive approaches. Edwards had a reputation for being two-faced as someone who would wreck you for position and then smile in your face afterward, creating the same Jekyll and Hyde personality that Logano embraces. It's really healthy to have that, because if not, if you were the type of person you were on track, off the track, you'd be a real jerk. Logano explained. The psychological balance necessity demonstrates Logano's sophisticated understanding of competitive psychology and the mental requirements for sustained championship excellence. You've got to find that balance. That balance is really important for me to be able to do that. There can be a switch that you turn on and off. It's really healthy to have that, he emphasized, showing how authentic competition requires systematic personality management rather than manufactured consistency. The Mexico City contrast reveals how cultural differences affect fan reception and create dramatically different competitive environments for the same driver. Making his debut in Mexico City presented Logano with an unanticipated shift in how he was perceived, where despite being far from home soil, Logano was met with applause instead of criticism. The Mexican crowd's enthusiasm and knowledge of every driver stood out immediately, creating appreciation and recognition rather than the systematic hostility he faces domestically. The social media backlash demonstrates the intensity of fan hatred and the systematic nature of criticism that extends beyond competitive disagreements into personal attacks. One online comment encapsulated residual resentment. "I lost all respect for him as a driver in 2015, and he hasn't done anything to gain it back since." Another escalated to outright hostility. "Boo! Horrible driver! Idiot! You suck!" These digital reactions echoed the jeering within the grandstands, creating tangible divide within NASCAR's audience. The autograph signing irony exposes the fundamental hypocrisy in fan behavior and reveals the systematic inconsistency that Logano brilliantly highlighted. Fans who lined up for autographs and personal interaction immediately transformed into vocal critics during the broadcast, creating the perfect setup for Logano's devastating response that they weren't booing when I was signing their autographs a minute ago. The competitive results context shows how Logano's performance validates his championship approach despite fan criticism and social media hostility. Logano started in 12th place but gradually slipped backward, eventually finishing 16th by the end of Stage 3 at Pocono, yet maintains one win this season and has put himself in the top 10 in points despite a rough start with finishes slipping away. The championship validation demonstrates how Logano's approach produces tangible results that transcend fan approval and social media criticism. To win championships 3 times puts Logano in rare air, proving that regardless of the playoff format or whatever point system is used, his competitive philosophy generates systematic championship success that validates his approach over fan preference. The competitive evolution shows how Logano's recent performance improvements coincide with his unapologetic embrace of his polarizing personality and rejection of fan expectations. Since winning at Texas, things have improved for the 22nd team, suggesting that authentic competitive focus produces better results than attempting to satisfy contradictory fan demands for likability and ruthlessness. The personality compartmentalization defense reveals Logano's sophisticated understanding of competitive psychology and the necessity of mental separation for championship performance. Not just fans to understand, I think it's hard for competitors to understand. There can be a switch that you turn on and off, he explained, showing how even other drivers struggle with the concept of authentic, competitive compartmentalization. The competitor respect factor demonstrates how Logano's approach creates genuine competitive fear and strategic advantages that transcend fan approval or media narrative. You didn't want to see Carl in your mirror, you're like, "Oh, here we go." It wasn't an easy car to pass and not supposed to be, Logano noted, emphasizing how intimidation and competitive respect matter more than popularity for championship success. The authentic competition philosophy reveals Logano's commitment to pure competitive excellence regardless of external pressure or social consequences. The expectation is always to go out there and win. Your competitors are very competitive people within this garage area. It's what you want to do, he stated, prioritizing championship pursuit over fan relationship management. Logano's mindset proves that long-term success comes from staying true to yourself, not chasing fan approval. He wins races and titles by being unapologetically competitive, even if it upsets people. His recent call-out of fans, who flip from admirers to critics, exposed the double standard in how he's treated and showed why authenticity beats popularity in the end.